Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Cosmic Crown conversation with me, Marie.
And me, Tina.
Can you hear better now? You've got your glasses on.
Yeah, I've got a spot on them. I don't know what it is. I've had to cut sap out of my hair where I've been cutting trees.
I'm telling you,
Oh
I'm
dear.
thinking something else in your hair. But anyway, right. This week, what are we doing, our kid?
We are doing portals.
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 Not
Yes.
portholes, but portals.
Portals.
And
And we have
uh,
a special guest.
a big treat for everyone. We have Brad from the UK on the line. Yeah, so welcome, Brad.
Hello, how are you?
Fine, thank you, mate, and thank you so much for joining us today. I consider you more of an expert on this than
I
me.
was going to
I am,
say, Brad is the science expert.
yes.
I'm the
So
magical expert, and you're the
I'm
comedy.
just here because I'm pretty. That's all. Um, but let's get down to business then. What did you want to bring to the table?
Well,
Sorry,
when we're
Tina.
talking about portals, I mean, firstly, what are they? And obviously, what type of portals we are talking about today are portals that have been seen in the sky, portals like the Bermuda Triangle, portals that could be natural phenomena, and portals that can be man-made, which is where Bradley comes in a bit more because I'm not sure about that, and mentioning CERN, which
Yeah.
is a research company. Yeah.
Excuse me.
So I've just added a thumbnail if anybody's seen it that a friend took here in North Cyprus at Esentepe, and it's a photograph, a night photograph of a portal in the sky, and it just looks like a round ring.
Yeah.
And to me, well, I know it's not faked because it's our friend, isn't it? So it was real. Whether it was just some weird weather phenomenon, I don't know. But some strange goings on have been happening here, and we had a
What in
mention of
what
ley lines.
respect?
Well, she's seen three portals. We know she is spiritually connected. She does healing.
Yeah.
But this is a photograph that so everyone can see it. It's not just, oh, I'm special. I can see things that you can't. It's there. It was there in the sky. So what is it?
Mm.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm shocked because I've never seen them like that. Never, I don't think. I've never seen a portal in the sky. I've seen UFOs, but not
Yeah.
a circle of something. And where does it go, if anywhere? Or is it just some weird cloud formation? It's just that it's a ring. It's a proper ring, and I've never seen that before. Have you? I think Marie's froze. Brad, are you there? Okay, so I'm all alone. Marie's froze. All right, so I'm going to talk about another place here that has a legend about a portal. It's a castle at the top of the mountain on the Kyrenia mountain range called Kantara. Now, it is a ruin, so there's not much left of it, but there is a story or a legend that um, has 100 rooms, apparently. Okay, we've lost Marie. It has 100 rooms, and there is apparently 101st room, or door, should I say? Let's say door. There's 101st door, which is a magical door that opens to some sort of paradise, or it's a doorway. Now, I don't think it is a literal door. I think that 101st one is a doorway or a portal. because there's been accounts here from various people that I do know and past ones where some guy went up there, and it's supposed to be open one day a year for 24 hours. It opens and then it closes for another year. And one guy went up there, disappeared for a year, and then came back a year later. I think he was a farmer or something, because it is at the top of the mountain. So there's that. Oh, hell, you've joined us again. No, you haven't joined us. See, she's got, I think Marie's gone through a portal. Oh dear. Okay, so carrying on with this Kantara. And there are accounts of people that have been missing up there. And it's a bit like certain places, like I said, the Bermuda Triangle, where people disappear and are never seen again. I wrote a story about it. Well, actually wrote a full-length movie script about it. And I've just got this notion that this doorway leads to Atlantis. That's just my take on it. And maybe the vows are thin one day a year, and I've no idea what day a year, what day it is, what time of year. It could be something to do with equinoxes. It could be some sort of moon cycle it hits. So it might not be an exact day, but at the time of that year, the moon cycle, it could be something to do with the sun, eclipses. I don't know. I don't know what the day is, but people have gone missing, and years and years ago, which you can't tell really if the story is true or not, that this guy turned up and came back from nowhere a year later. Who knows? And what story he had to tell. We may never know. But that is a little story about portals at Kantara in North Cyprus. So it looks like I'm going to be on my own there, don't it? Well, I was going to talk to Brad about quantum entanglement, because with the CERN collider, is it? They did stuff. They recreated. So I can hear you now anyway.
Can you?
I can hear you. Can you hear Brad?
No, because Brad's not on the phone.
He's on my phone. I've got him on the loudspeaker.
Oh, right. No, I can't hear Brad. No.
Brad? Brad? No, he's gone.
Okay.
He's gone for a portal. You've gone for a portal and come back again.
Are we starting again?
No, it's still going. I was talking about Kantara. So
oh, right. Okay, let me call Brad. Because I wanted his input.
I started talking about CERN. I don't really know a lot about CERN.
All right, mate. We had a really big Wi-Fi moment. We are live. Are you able to carry on with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Was you talking about Kantara while you were gone, and the missing doorway, the 101st doorway that opens, or the vows have been one day a year, and what that day is, I haven't got a clue. And people have disappeared, and one person was supposed to have disappeared and come back a year later, but we'll never know, because it's just stories around the village. So you know, people that disappeared.
Oh, well, what I was trying to do before it all went haywire was to bring back Brad into it and say, Like, have you ever had any experiences of portals?
Is he there?
I have, yeah, I've had quite a few strange things I've seen in the sky that I haven't been able to explain. I think I saw one with, I think I was with my sister actually, Charlie, back in London, and we was like watching this. I don't know how to explain it, but it just looked like a sperm flying through the sky, but it was ejecting like these little white lights in a strobe.
Wow.
And this was back in the early 2000s. I don't think they had that type of, because I know the Starlink satellites can do stuff like that, where it looked like lights across the sky when they're being ejected.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, them days you wouldn't have had such a good phone as you've got now either, would you? When you think about the year 2000, or literally, it's 25 years ago. It's a long time. Oh, Marie's gone again. Her internet is just so rubbish in this country. Oh, it's just a joke. So there's other places. I mean, Stonehenge is a fantastic place. I've been there, and it is a magical place, and there's just something about it. And Glastonbury itself is supposed to be the heart chakra, if you want to call it, of the earth. And a policeman was reported to be driving by, and he saw like lightning or lights striking the Stonehenge circle. So that could be a portal, and what is coming in and out of that portal? It could be aliens, well, we call them aliens, but I mean they're just, to me, interdimensional beings. So are we going to get Marie
Back again. Back again.
You keep popping in and out of this portal, don't you?
I know it's really, it's actually worse than it usually is, isn't it? But there are
Is Brad still
difficulties
there?
today. Brad's still here, aren't you, Brad?
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah, still here.
let's get you talking quick before Marie goes about quantum entanglement, because I haven't got a clue.
Okay, this is a bit of a long one, but the easy explanation is that
For dummies.
you can get two particles that are quantum locked no matter how far apart they are in space. And the interesting thing about them is that they don't use time to motion. They move in reflection to one another. So let's say one was on Earth and the other was on the moon. However one of them acts, the other one will instantaneously react the exact same way.
Yeah.
It doesn't work with the same way we send signals across to communicate. If we had some means of like quantum entangled network communication, it would definitely be a jump up from what we know and can do now in terms of like how we communicate across space, because there's quite a few delays when you have that problem. Like if you was on the moon, I believe there's about a 3-minute delay if you were to speak with someone, because how long it takes the signal to get back and forward. But the way quantum entanglement works is that
light
particles
travels,
are locked with one another.
Sorry, what did you say, T?
Yeah, it's like how sound and light travels. It takes time, doesn't it? But this is instant. This one. Is this the CERN?
Yeah, it's like an instantaneous motion in reflection to the other particle.
Yeah, is this the CERN experiment?
They've actually very recently transferred data across quantum entangled particles, which is a pretty big deal, and it is quite groundbreaking considering what opportunities it can make in the future. Because not only do we know now that we can do it, but now we can build on it.
What was Mum was saying, I don't know if I'm saying the right thing, like CERN or whatever it was, but I read something about where they were trying to make this portal, and it had something to do with when the Big Bang happened. They tried to find out what had happened just after. I think that's what
Yeah,
it was.
they essentially what they do at like the CERN super collider is they smash particles together at such speeds that they create an instance that happened like relatively soon after the Big Bang.
Right.
Because just before the Big Bang, everything was just essentially a primordial soup of electrically charged particles, and things just needed to stabilize.
All right. Feel a bit like Brownie now. Have you got any?
Like this technology, where's it going to go from there? What's the connection with portals? Is it time travel, dimension travel?
Portals it's a very interesting thing because we know how portals could work, but we also don't, if that makes sense. Because if we did know, then we would be doing it. And I believe I believe they have some understanding on the forefront of science that we probably don't hear about. You know how they talk about what was that? The Philadelphia experiment. Essentially, they said they were trying to make a portal then when they were trying to move that ship, wasn't it? I can't remember the name of the ship right now.
Yeah.
We've just got somebody joined us. Sorry, Brad, on the live.
No worries.
One of our regulars and great supporters called Warrior Girl. So we welcome you. Those who are listening on Spotify and other platforms, it is a shame that we can't do it at the moment on their live or anything like that. But you're more than welcome. And we have our guest to reiterate that it's Brad, and he's giving us some information. So, yeah, what is the trajectory of what's going to happen with it all, Brad?
It's a good question. We don't. I suppose people like us, we won't know just yet. But you know what they say: if there is any intelligence or data, they've probably already got it already before they give it to us.
Do you think
Yeah,
that they're more in front than we know?
Oh yeah, I definitely believe there are some levels of science that they won't release to like the general public. But
Yeah.
it's a difficult argument because you can go and look at it yourself as well.
Right.
But there's physics, you know, there's physics, and then there's the extreme physics.
Yeah, I mean, this is going beyond my capability, but I do understand what you're saying. It's just that.
Well, this is one of the rules of space that I've heard quite commonly. Space can do whatever it wants. It doesn't need to follow the same principles that we know about. Well, a good example is a black hole. Very interesting things. Very interesting. They're so interesting that they're hard to understand from our perspective.
Right.
Because they're just
black hole
supposedly all of this matter condensed into a single point. And some of them, I would advise to go look at references. One in particular called TON, TON-618, which is a supermassive black hole, and just look at the size comparisons compared to not just other stars, but actually our solar system, and you actually see the magnitude of what these things are capable of, which goes back to the rule where space doesn't have to do what we believe. You know, it has its own rules. Sometimes it can break its own rules.
What was your question then, Tay?
So it's a black hole, a portal, because it goes somewhere. Isn't that the point of a portal? To like transport from one place to another.
Again, it's a matter of we don't know. It's but look, I guess you can look at it this way. So, you know, the general consensus is that a black hole is a point that is so dense that it curves space and time. So if you consider space like a sheet, and then you look at a star and how it, because of its mass, it creates a gravitational field, correct?
Yes, correct, Brad.
Sorry?
I was saying correct. It's just I get what you're saying. It's just I didn't know that information.
Oh, okay. Well, essentially, just like fabric, when you pull fabric, eventually it gets to a point where it can't stretch no more. And then what happens when it doesn't stretch? When it can't stretch no more, it rips.
It tears, yeah.
And that's kind of what could be happening with black holes. It's very possible that they could be a fracture in space and time that does go into another dimension or another universe, like the multiversal theory.
Oh.
That's appearing quite commonly now in science, and more evidence seems to be leaning towards it as against it.
Do you know what I find very interesting is that we've got examples of things on this earth that may or may not be portals and things like that. And the one that really got me was this right of recognition, 25 years, Jubilee of the Catholic Church, and them opening doors that have been locked, and people are saying they're portals and things like that. And it's revealing its opportunities for forgiveness where you walk through. There was one in a prison as well. But where they're situated is there's a map. It's like a map. You know what I mean? There's a shape, and it's called the shape of Lucifer.
Well,
My point being is that you can tell me all these things that are on this earth. Like there's one, hang on, Aramu Muru. It's in somewhere in Peru, and it's in a red rock, and you put your hands against each side of this door. I'm heading for something. Each side of this door, and your forehead against the rock, and you're supposed to go through. What I'm trying to say is, you hear all these things, get all these pictures, people visiting things about portals, but then now suddenly, well, not suddenly, it's probably been going for a long time, the scientists are coming out with more and more and trying to do things that are either recreating or creating portals. Do you think it's gone beyond myths and legends now, Brad?
Oh yeah, I definitely believe there's a science behind it, as magical as it all seems. Even back then, I believe it was just a different approach to science that was a bit more embracing universal aspect, because right now humans tend to have a problem of looking at everything too logically, you know. And like I said to you, space doesn't have the same rules we do. The things out there do look like magic, but they're also scientific, you know.
Yeah.
I refer back to that supermassive black hole called TON-618. If you just saw the magnitude of it, you'd look at it and be like, how is that possible? You know, but it is, and it's not going to give you an explanation.
I just think that as much as like we've all spoken about, and the picture from our friend, to give you some evidence. And the evidence, I'm just moving. It's I think it's time for a lot of people to embrace that there is something else. It's not just stories.
Yeah, I think
I
there
think
are
people are
natural
definitely,
phenomena.
I think people have been becoming more and more accepting to the idea of these, what I suppose people would call extreme sciences. But no, there's definitely more, like I was talking about, even least do it on microscope. Pretty feat to accomplish because of what it can represent in the future, and it is something that can be borderline magic. You know, if you went back and told, I'm sure you went back and told people a load of things from thousands of years ago, they'd see it as magic.
Yeah.
Chat GPT, iPhones, everything.
Yeah.
You take a picture of someone back then, then you can tell them it's their soul, and if they don't do what you say, you'll delete their soul, you know, and they'll do what you say. It's, to them, it's magic, but to you, it's science. And that's probably how it's looking from who or whatever else is out there trying to intermingle with humans, or when you talk about these portals, to us it's just awe-inspiring, but to them it could just be a common manipulation of physics that they know about.
Oh, never thought of
There's
that.
an interesting one I'd like to talk about called the holographic principle. Maybe a few of your listeners have already heard it. More and more people are beginning to talk about it. But one of the interesting things is to do with, do you know how as humans, three-dimensional beings, when light projects off us, we cast a shadow onto a two-dimensional surface?
Yeah.
What are you doing? It's all right. There's somebody in the Brad's on the phone, you see. So Brad can't see.
We do readings on our other channel, the Cosmic Sisters Tarot.
Yeah. Sorry, Brad. We were, we was being very, very serious then. But yeah, I was going to say, you were saying about, I was reading something, and then it was about reflections, like when you said about in the past, like illusionists and things like that. And I think that's given it a bad reputation, if you get me. Portals and things like that. Nah, it's just an illusion. But it's real, isn't it?
Well, there are some transient luminous events like jellyfish sprite. Now, if you saw one of them hundreds of years ago, you probably would think it was something otherworldly, but it's just an occurrence that happens in the mesosphere after it's like electrical discharges from lightning strikes, but it just looks like a jellyfish in the sky, or a bunch of jellyfish. And it does look very magical. It looks like something out of a high fantasy movie, but it's just a natural occurrence that happens in the atmosphere.
Oh, right. You know, when we've seen the lightning here, when it goes really low, there's this like, the lightning comes down and there's this like massive glow, isn't there? There's a glow.
Girls asking, was Brad about to explain dimensions? Do you want to explain dimensions, Brad?
Oh yeah, so I was talking about the holographic principle.
That's it.
So do you know how, as three-dimensional beings or like three-dimensional objects, when light projects, or when light is shown upon us, we project a two-dimensional shadow across a two-dimensional surface?
Yeah.
Right.
So essentially, we cast a shadow of ourselves in a lower dimension. Does that make sense?
It does to me. I'm following.
Yeah, so now the way some people are talking about it now is that from their dimension, which is higher than ours, they're projecting shadows that are down to our dimension, which appear to us as three-dimensional objects. Because people started asking, when they see these UFOs or even these portals, how is it they can just ping in and out of existence as if they were like a hologram?
Oh.
And one of these theories is that it's a three-dimensional shadow of their higher dimensional projection cast down to our dimension.
Wow. That is really interesting. Wow. Like when you don't, you can know so much about a subject, or you're trying to learn about a subject, and it just blows your mind when you got somebody like yourself who has a lot of information to share. And I just go, that's why I'm so quiet. Well, I'm quiet in a way, but I'm like, really? Do you know what I mean? In my head.
Yeah.
What do you think, T?
I understand that they could be looking at us. So those UFOs that come in and out of dimensions, is it existence, whatever? That is their 3D shadow. So are they somewhere else as well, and that's just a projection of them?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, obviously, we don't know if and how their technology works, even if you can call it technology, you know. For all we know, it could be a biological or it could be like an innate trait of a higher dimensional being, the same as the way we can breathe, and like it might just be a natural thing they can do. We don't really know, you know. You can't always assume they're going to be bipedal, long and slender, with black eyes,
elongated. Yeah. It's Carl's.
they don't have to abide by the same evolutionary prospects that we do, you know. Especially if they're from somewhere different entirely, could have a whole entire different anatomical structure.
I was going to say, how they look. Go on, T. Carl wants to ask.
And that's why these like the biblical angels, and that was so interesting. And it was interesting how the creepier ones, like when they say, like when an angel appeared to a human, one of the words, the few words it always started was "Be not afraid," as if they knew humans were going to immediately freak out the minute they saw them.
Yeah. Stop, collaborate, collaborate, and listen.
You see in the Bible how it portrays them as like ringed circlets with myriad eyes and wings, or they have 4 faces. You know, it's very rarely anything pretty, actually, is it?
No, that's true. Did you want to ask the question from Carl too?
Carl said, do you know of any accounts of someone purposefully going through a portal and coming back to tell the tale?
I've heard a story.
Not the big.
But go on, Brad.
No, I've heard stories. I've heard a few, like, I've definitely heard stories. I'd have to think on that one for a minute and just go back through my memory. But there's none that strike me off the top of my head. Usually something like that I would probably hold on to if there was more tangible evidence, which unfortunately we struggle with for some reason. But I don't disregard the stories, and I don't disregard the fact that it always has to happen when you're awake. Could happen when you're asleep.
Oh,
The brain is a very complex thing, and
yeah, I mean, it's like actually.
Remember, Kay.
You know,
Sorry,
remote viewing.
I'm just going to say. Go on.
Yeah, remote viewing. When I remote viewed the moon, like it was in an instant. I'm here, but then I was there, and I saw the buildings and stuff on the moon.
One of the theories about.
Go on, Brad.
One of the theories I've heard about dreams is that they're fragments of a multiversal version of yourself that you're experiencing.
I was just going to say, sorry to interrupt this. Remember, T, if anybody's coming on, remember when it goes on audio, nobody knows what you're doing.
Yeah.
Just if there's any questions or anything, but everybody seems to be having a nice time in the chat. Brad, you've really sparked a lot of things going off. The only story that I can come to mind right now is when I mentioned that Muru. Sorry, I'm just making sure. I just wrote it down and I can't say it. Is when I said about there's pictures of people putting their hands on the side of this door. It's about 23 foot or something, and they kneel down and they put the forehead against the doorway. It's blocked up. Apparently, a newlywed couple went there, and the man wanted his new wife to go with him just to. I want to do this. I want to see if I can do this. So he did that, and apparently when she was watching, he disappeared. He said when he came back, so he did come back, and he was there. Pooh, magic. I don't know, right? But he said that he went somewhere and it was like a laboratory. That's what he said. and he was having a nice chat with the person. I cannot remember the story, but that's the one that's in the or is it? It's solid red rock, carved door, a doorway to the Lords of Gods and immortal life. Apparently, it is. That's the only story I know.
When you look at movies like Stargate and then Primeval, do you remember Primeval? That was more of a tear than, and it was a portal.
What
There was
Brad was talking
dinosaurs
about.
in the room, but it was like a tear, like an accidental tear, but caused by humans.
There was a story I read about from the 12th century. Actually, it just came back to mind. I can't remember the location. It was somewhere in Suffolk, England, back in like the 12th century, and it's quite a known story actually. So I wouldn't be surprised if your listeners have heard it. It was about these two children that appeared in this village, I believe, and they had green skin, and they said they came from a place called, I think it was St. Martin's Land. They said they came from, but the boy died and the girl survived, and she lived on. And what they said was they fell through a cave while they were herding their cattle or their sheep or their animals, and then they ended up in our world. Right. And some people say that maybe they slipped through dimensions. I don't disbelieve the fact that there could be some focal points around the Earth that could have that property to it.
Yeah, I think it's energy, isn't it? Like central energy fields, like the one in our picture. And what we wanted to talk about on the next podcast was like ley lines, which is all about.
That's true, yeah.
There was also that one about the man in Japan. He arrived at an airport saying he was from a place called Theyre. I can't remember the full story off my head, but essentially they sat him down and they were trying to show him on the map. They got a map out and they were trying to get him to point on the map where he was from, and he was pointing, but it wasn't there. And he had a very strange passport, and the passport even said on it like Theyre as well. And I think what happened was they had him locked up in a hotel because they didn't know what to do with him. They thought they can't send him home because his home doesn't exist, but his passport says it's here. Yeah. You know, but apparently it's not on any map they could find. And yeah, they guarded his hotel room apparently, but when they went in after some time, he was gone.
I'm with you, yeah. I was just going to say, I didn't know the end of that story.
I think someone did debunk that.
It's quite a famous story.
It's just the evidence, available evidence, and it's like stories that get handed down, isn't it? And there's no actual proof. So it's, whether you want to believe it or not. But we have science now. We have real science and real evidence of this.
Yeah. We've had some, I didn't mention it earlier in the podcast, but today, but we were having trouble with our internet. Yes, you're right, Mother's Tarot. It is in Peru, the one I was talking about, where you put your it's on the border of Peru and something else. So well done. People are doing homework, Brad. While we're talking.
These caves in Sri Lanka that have got star maps that are, years and years old, that they wouldn't have known where the stars were. But these carvings on the walls are found identical in like opposite sides of the earth. And they think that there could be some sort of portal there. So they've gone from one place to the other. But if they've got star maps, then there's people coming from the stars,
a mirroring universe.
And then that's their map. It's like Stargate, isn't it? That whole Stargate, the program, there was symbols to symbolise, your address, basically. So it's just like typing in your address and knowing how to get there.
Sorry, Brad.
I definitely believe it. No, I was just going to say, I definitely believe it was a skill set or even a method of science that's been lost, maybe intentionally. I wouldn't like to imagine what people would get up to if they could pull nowadays. Who knows what they'd get up to. and that's probably why they don't give it to people, because they can't be trusted. So
Yeah, I think
flying cars and
I think we're not ready. I don't think we're
no,
ready.
humans are still a bit immature in that sense, but it's also it could get a bit political here, but it's also to blame the way the government like lead us. Shooting things. I don't believe that everyone. I don't believe that everyone is incapable of it. I don't believe actually anyone is not capable of it. It's just a matter of putting the time and the dedication into it. You know, when you look at some of these old practices and these old religions, and like they followed this stuff very religiously, and it was very important to them the way they practiced it. It wasn't a joke. It wasn't fun and games. Like when you look at stuff like Stonehenge and the pyramids, it was an extortionate amount of work to do that for something that doesn't really seem to do much now. You know,
That's a very good point. Yeah. Yeah, it's a very good
It's
point.
a lot of effort to put in. And you've got to think about the labour that goes into it, like the people behind the labour.
Yeah.
Obviously, there was a time when slavery was a thing, unfortunately, but there's also points in time when that slavery wasn't an aspect of like something being created. People done it because they wanted to, not because they had to.
I was going to say maybe things have been misinterpreted, and it was everybody joining together for a sole purpose.
And you know those.
Oh yeah, I believe at one point maybe the humans probably were a lot more collaborative with one another, and you know what they say, you know, you divide and conquer, and you divide people, it's easier to control. It's just the same story that's been spun for the past 2,000, 3,000 years.
Sorry, T, what was you saying?
Pyramids, yeah, there's actually never been any mummies found in pyramids themselves.
Any what, sorry?
Any mummies, there's never been a mummy found inside a pyramid. There is definitely some other use for them pyramids, definitely.
Oh, it's all right. It confused me a little bit, unless it's been made up, because I used to go to the museum in Birmingham, UK, and you could see that there was something in it, but if you say, sorry, the Egyptian area was the one I went.
They would have been in tombs.
Yeah, but you know, it was. I can't say that word. Sarcophagus. That's it.
Sarcophagus.
That's the one, Brad. And it's like you can see it's been broken and there's something there, but it was just something I revisited. I just kept going to it. It was just drawing me in. We've got some comments. Mother's Tarot. Who is the gentleman talking over the phone with the ladies? His name's Brad, and he's very close to Tina's heart. We did introduce him earlier.
What have you studied, Brad?
Right now, nothing. I did study planetary science at university way back, what was it, 15 years ago?
Wow.
I think I stopped just after they discovered the Higgs boson, which I believe was 2012.
Wow. Mother's Tarot said hello to you, Brad. I know you can't see the screen.
Hello. Yeah, sorry about that. We tried to get it to connect, but I think because we're in different countries at the moment, it's just a bit difficult.
Yeah.
But we are traveling. My wife and I are traveling out to Cyprus very soon, so hopefully we can all have a sit down and actually have a consistent live chat about it, because it is a very interesting topic, and there's so much you can go into about it.
Yeah. I'm glad. You should be a promoter, Brad. But yeah, we're going to have to come to a close now. Is there anything you want to add, Brad, or when you come to Northern Cyprus, we can carry on this conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess my recommendation for people is definitely do your research and look into it. and just look at the information that's out there. There's a lot of stories. There's a lot of things in history that are very interesting. One of the cultures that I get very interested in is the ancient Sumerians, because they're essentially to us, they're essentially the oldest civilization that we know about. They're sophisticated anyway.
Yeah.
Apart from that, Göbekli Tepe.
Sort of appeared out of nowhere. And it was like the pyramids too. Apparently one of the reasons they say the Egyptians never show how they built the pyramids was because they didn't build them, they found them. When they got there, they were already up.
Well, Warrior Girl, who's in the chat, she says she lived in Samaria. So,
Oh, wow.
I know.
That's definitely a region I would love to go and visit. Unfortunately, because of the political, like the geopolitics, it's a bit difficult. But hopefully one day I could get out there and do some exploring, because I think there's definitely some lost history under that sand. 100%.
Oh, yeah. I agree with you, Brad. And on that note, I'm very sorry, but we've got to draw it all to a close. If you stay on the line, Brad, I'll talk to you in a second. But thank you so much for being part of a Cosmic Crone conversation this week. Really enjoyed your input. And we're going to say goodbye to everybody in the chat. Thank you for joining us this week. And yes, Brad will make a return. Yeah, wait till you see him. Well, let alone hear him. Oh my God. Anyway, I'm biased, Brad. Thank you very much.
No, it's lovely. I'm definitely looking forward to talking about it a bit more.
Yeah, go back in your portal. Take care, Brad, and I'll speak to you in a second. T.
No worries.
What a fantastic, yeah, and always a pleasure to have guests. If anybody else would like to join us for any topic, to be honest with you, I would like to learn from you as well. So if there's anything you would like to be part of in any of our subjects, just get in touch. Just get in touch. It would be really nice to have you on board. Thank you, everyone. It's been super duper califragilistic. Yeah, it's that. So I'm going to say goodbye from me, Marie.
And thank you, everyone, for joining us. And goodbye from me, Tina.
Take care, everybody, and we'll see you soon, or hear you soon. Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Bye.